This is LA, our city, our home. Los Angeles, we never walk alone.
KJLK, AM 1150. It is your voice. It is what, Tuesday afternoon. Glad to be here with you. The 23rd day of July. Where is this year going? There's a story in Hermosa Beach right now, the beautiful South Bay town, about how people are divided about whether or not they should approve oil drilling again off the coast of Hermosa Beach. Now, money is always a good thing, but at what price? So we've invited Peter Mathews, who has spent 3 decades as a college and university professor, Cypress College, also political commentator on many stations around Southern California and beyond. Professor, welcome back to the program.
How's it going, Dave?
It's going great. So, Peter, this story about drilling coming back after 80 years, what's this all about?
Well, it's about 1932 when the community, Hermosa Beach, decided to ban any kind of new oil drilling. And then 50 years later, they voted to allow it to a company called McPherson, who was going to bring in drilling. And they, for many, many years, till 1995 or so, they didn't get anything going because the people started opposing it again, and they voted to not allow it. And so it's back and forth. But right now, we're at a crux right now, the whole climax of this whole issue. I spoke with Dr. Mike Collins of Hermosa Beach. He's with a group called Stop Hermosa Beach Oil, and they've got a website. And they've organized people to say we don't want oil drilling in Hermosa Beach because it'll despoil the quality of life.
Well, how will it spoil? You know, I have heard that a lot, but how will it spoil? Is it seeing the oil derricks out there, the towers, the platforms, or is it that there's concern that there could be a spill, or is it both? I mean, what's the big beef?
It's really all of the above, but especially the concern that underneath underground drilling, even though it's slant or horizontal drilling,
I see,
which will reach out to the ocean and also inland, could end up having an accident like the BP spill, for example. But also, it's going to create chemicals down there. You know, the company decided, this EB Natural Resources decided to take over the contract. Said they would not use fracking, which means using chemicals and high pressure water to break the shale oil, the rocks, and bring out the natural gas and oil. They said they would not use that, but then again, I talked to Dr. Collins and I asked him, did you ask the company if they would put that in writing? He said, we did. And they said, why should we put everything in writing that we're not going to do? So they were very evasive about it. And so the citizens are really concerned about what that could do to chemicals underneath the ground and to destabilizing the whole situation, the physical geology over there. Don't forget something else, Dave. A recent study came out and showed that some of this fracking, quite a bit of it actually, in states like Arkansas, in Oklahoma, and now in the Inglewood oil field, oil fields in Baldwin Hills, have been causing a lot of earthquakes. 1,100 earthquakes in September have been discovered in Arkansas, which never had earthquakes before, because these hydraulic fracturing is very, very severe. It breaks up the rock, and they pump the polluted water back in there, and that destabilizes the rock formations and can cause many earthquakes, especially when you got the San Andreas Fault over here and the Inglewood-Newport Fault.
Now, they're talking about drilling as many as 30 wells, and they keep dangling the carrot of money, dinero, in front of the city of Hermosa Beach. Do you think city coffers could use it? Will city leaders go for it? Because you know what they're about. If it's money, it's addictive.
They're offering they're saying about $500 million in 30 years. That's
right.
About $16 million a year. And that could be some money for a city like that size. But on the other hand, the schools will only get about $11 million during all those years. It's very little money compared to what the quality of life. And don't forget, there's tourism down there. If you start having oil derricks and all this stuff going on, underground, and people know that, then you're going to have a drop in tourism possibly. The cities that do have oil drilling are not as well off in terms of tourism as Hermosa Beach is. So that's one thing they're concerned about too, the quality of life. But the money, they're always being dangled, of course, by the oil companies. They want to do that. And they want to drill.
Professor, look, you're a scholar of political science. The NIMBY mentality, not in my backyard, is always alive and well in almost any issue. And yet we're huge consumers of these fuels and things like that. I mean, California is a fuel island, I tell people, an artificial island. We can only use fuel that's refined here in the state of California, on and on. I could go on and on. You and I have talked about how community colleges could use the revenue from the oil extraction and things like that. What do you see ahead for the state? I mean, shouldn't we have some kind of a strategic energy plan for the state, or do you know if we have one?
We need a strategic plan for the United States and for California, which we don't have in place, that would include moving rapidly toward renewables. I mean, wind power, solar power, tide power, those kinds of powers and bringing in new lines, these power lines that could bring would save the energy. Because right now we're losing about 50% of our electricity on these old guard power lines that we have. We could bring in a whole new infrastructure, and we need to move toward that, like Germany is doing. 40% of German energy is renewable energy. Over here, 3.5% in the United States, David. So we have to put our scientists and engineers to work bringing a new system. One more thing. AB 1323 was just defeated in the State Assembly that would put a moratorium on fracking. Not ban it, but a moratorium that would stop it for a while until we study it further to see if it's really going to hurt our health. And believe me, it got defeated because most of the California State Assembly took money from the pro-fracking oil industry in their campaigns. You go to maplight.org. All the dollars are listed. And the top people that got most of the money from them voted to not have the moratorium. New York State has a one-year moratorium, which was just renewed by the governor.
No, Professor, up and down the coast, I am hearing just what you are saying, that fracking has become of great concern to coastal communities because the industry, the oil industry, is putting this out as the best way for America to squeeze every drop out that we may have underneath our soil, our surface anyway. But when I look at the study of Hermosa Beach, how in the world can it be in the interest of a community when you're producing up to 45 million barrels of oil from wells a few blocks from the beach? How does that make any sense?
It won't make any sense, and it won't help Hermosa Beach, and it's not helping California. We need to move to renewables once again. I just saw a movie called Gasland 2.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, yes.
It is incredible. Yeah. The documentation there, Dave, that goes to Pennsylvania where the big Marcellus shale is located. Mm-hmm. You've got people in Texas and also in Pennsylvania that have been pushed and driven out of their homes because the nearby oil wells, which include the natural gas wells, are creating chemicals through the fracking process that goes into their water supply. And you could light a match at your faucet, and it blows up into a flame, and it stays. And one guy had a water hose in Texas. He had to leave his multi-million-dollar mansion, which he built, a multi-million-dollar mansion. He had to move out of there because he had a water hose that wouldn't stop burning. That's how bad it is over there. And this stuff is going underground. And I'm not trying to sound alarmist. You got to see Gasland 2. It documents it very well.
Oh, no.
It's on HBO right now, actually.
Yeah, I was watching parts of it this week, and have to end with this. It's interesting how this Bakersfield Company, E&B, has now leased some prime real estate right there on the main drag in Hermosa Beach. They've got this office, and they're letting it be used as a community room by local groups. I guess it's the PR effort underway, huh?
They always do that to try to co-opt the people, but I don't think Hermosa Beach people are going to go for that. We'll see what happens in the election. There's supposed to be an election next year to decide this, with all the voters in the city will vote.
Well, I'll tell you something. I appreciate you bringing this to our attention because, Professor, as it goes in Hermosa Beach, so will go much of other communities across California. Thank you for being a watchdog on these issues out there. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. No problem, Dick. Take care.
Professor Peter Mathews, our good friend from Cypress College, giving us the heads up on what's going on right there in Hermosa Beach. It's always interesting where a company that's based in Bakersfield-based E&B Natural Resources, not to knock Bakersfield, but about the best thing I remember about Bakersfield growing up, that it was a great wrestling capital. The big wrestlers would come to Bakersfield.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, as a kid. You see, you didn't know that. You didn't know that trivia. On the wrestling circuit of America back then, Bakersfield was big. But did I know it to be the place of natural resources? If it is, why don't you drill in Bakersfield instead of Hermosa Beach? All right.